this is going to be the second part now of kind of my explanation of how I'm building out my automation and how you could build out your automation as well. If you haven't seen the first video, a lot of this might look a little confusing because we're basically building on what I talked about in my last video. So I would recommend you watch the first one first and then come back to this one if you're a little bit confused. Basically, last one we talked about passive subdomain enumeration and how I'm kind of doing it, and getting domains from passive sources and turning it into reasonable data. And now I'm going to talk about how I bring some active components into it and basically add on to the chain. And then again, we're just going to keep adding on to this chain as we go through the video. I may change it at some point, whatever. This is actually like what I'm building on the side. And when we do streams and stuff, this is kind of what I'm working on in coding. Just like I said in the last one, I want to hear your guys' recommendations, thoughts, critiques, things you like, things you don't like, ideas you have, things you do that maybe you don't see here. Everyone can bring value to everyone, and I think there would be a lot of value from the community. If you guys have any questions about any of this, please feel free to message me on Discord or Twitter, or I'm technically on Mastodon too with all the stuff going on. Really anywhere, go ahead, shoot me a message, ask away. I love talking to you guys. A few of you guys have reached out after the last video. It's super cool talking to you guys. So really quick, last video, what we talked about again was just the passive stuff. So going from seed domains through passive enumeration to make an all subdomains list, taking that list, going through DNS resolution. Ones that didn't resolve, we kept in the all subdomains list, and this is a continuous loop. Stuff that does resolve goes into resolve subdomains. That goes into port scanning to a list of domains and ports mapped, and then those open ports that we know are on the domains get probed for web servers. Another continuous loop here, and then those get dumped into another list or table if you're using a central database like I am of domains now with web servers and full URLs that we know host a website that we can hit. And that's where we'll get into later stuff with web testing. And I had to take the little bubble out because it was in the way of some of this other stuff. But these resolve subdomains were what I would use for any DNS testing, like subdomain takeover and NS takeover, zone takeover, stuff like that. I would use this list because something is sitting there. There's some kind of records there, right? So now let me zoom back in here, adding the active stuff. So active stuff for me includes basically two things: is domain brute forcing and then permutation testing. If you've never looked into permutation testing before, I'm going to leave a blog link in the description of this video for the guy who made this tool that I use called Regulator. And it's kind of a mix of tools put together, but he calls it Regulator, I believe. But I'm going to leave his blog. It really goes into depth of why permutation is important, what it kind of means, and the interesting way to do it with this tool. It is what I'm doing. So basically what it does is it takes the domains that you've already think you found. So from this all subdomains list, you're going to push it into the tool. And normally you can use a word list and stuff like that too, but it actually basically will analyze the domains that you've already found and then try and resolve new domains based off of ones you've already found. So it mix and matches patterns, creates patterns and numbers and that kind of stuff, and tries to find new domains. So basically I pushed into this tool, and any domains that resolve out of that tool obviously have to be added to all subdomains because now we found new subdomains. But since this is also doing resolving similar to this step, that's why I wanted to put them equal to each other. We also will put it in the resolved domains list, right? Because it's a new domain that we found, so it'll go in the all subdomains, but then it's also already resolved, so we know it's resolving. So it will go right away into the resolved domains as well. We'll add it to the list we need to add it to, and then it will continue to be in the flow. So basically this whole section here is just a tack-on module on the side that pulls out of all subdomains and will permutate, test, and hopefully find new domains. And that can just, again, run in a continuous loop on its own, continually trying to permutate and find new domains. The other side over here is just your normal straight up domain brute forcing, which is kind of why I put it on the similar plain as passive enumeration because it kind of would happen at the same time in my mind. So you basically take just your seed domains, send them to the brute forcer, and basically all that would be, right, is just having a word list of whatever you want, however long you want. There's word lists everywhere for domain brute forcing. Take your pick. If people have questions about what I use, I'm more than willing to chat about it. It's not a secret. But basically same thing. You're tacking on words from the word list onto the seed domain and then trying to resolve it and seeing if it resolves into something similar to the permutation. If it resolves, we're putting any of the domains that resolve into both the all subdomains list as well as the resolve domains list, because we want to make sure it gets added to both, because it is also a new domain. So we're putting in all subdomains, but at the same time it already resolved, so we're also putting it here. Yeah, and basically that is how I tack on, kind of on both sides here, an active portion of what I'm already doing. So as you can see, there's starting to be a lot of loops develop here. There's like kind of a big loop here. There's a loop here from the passive one. There's a loop here. And all of these loops basically for me turn into workers. So there's one worker that just does permutations. It just over and over. We'll pull from all subdomains, do the permutations. Anything new that's resolved that's not already in the list gets added in, start over, right? Same thing over here. Pull seed domains, throw the word list in, resolve anything you can, put it in the list, right? And you can run that as often or as little as you want. Maybe you only try and brute force like once a month, right? It's really up to you. Maybe you try and do permutations every day. Maybe you try and do permutations, once a month as well. It's really up to you. But from here now, this is kind of my pretty much, I would say, full-ish recon workflow as far as my automation goes, to get me a list of all subdomains that I found passively or actively, any of those subdomains from the all subdomains list that actually resolve to any kind of DNS record of any type. I normally grab anything that gives me a response of no error, server fail, or what's the other one I'm thinking of here? I will grab some NX domains because of Azure and stuff, but basically anything that could lead to an NS takeover from a status code, I'll also grab. I don't just grab no errors. And then again, you throw it into port scanning, you get domains and ports mapped to each other. So domain and its open ports, you take those open ports and probe them for web servers, and you end up with URLs that you can do web testing on. So kind of at this point, you can run all this automation. You can all run continuously. You can have it as a mega script. You can have it as workers like I've talked about in other videos with Docker and stuff like that. I'm going to kind of make a video probably at some point talking about actually going through deploying a worker. That might be the next one before we get into like actual testing, and automating some of that testing. But for now, I wanted to get this active enumeration video out, get it in front of you guys so you can get a whole workflow of kind of how I make my automation. If there's interest in this diagram as we go forward, I can give it to any of you guys. Reach out. I'll send it to you if you want it for a reference. Otherwise, like I said, just pause the video at any point in time and, check it out. But yeah, that's really all I had for active stuff. Again, any questions, any feedback you guys want to like hack together or talk to me, anything like that, I've already had a couple of you guys reach out, and it's super cool talking to you guys, hearing what you guys do and what you guys think of it and all that stuff. Super amazing. Anyway, I will see you in the next one. Peace.